Fitness influencer Joey Swoll faces serious backlash on social media about Hulk Hogan's death. Joey Swoll received backlash after posting his tribute to Hulk Hogan online. Joey Swoll says he is done after being criticized over sharing a video of himself dressed as Hulk Hogan in the gym. The fitness influencer, known online as CEO of Gym Positivity, was slammed for posting an old clip of himself working out in a fancy dress costume of Hogan, who passed away at the age of 71 last week, July 24. Swoll, 42, has since deleted the video in which he dressed in a Halloween costume at Gold's Gym in California. Joey Swoll built his reputation on positivity, lifting not just weights, but people. He was the self-proclaimed CEO of Gym Positivity, a voice of discipline, transformation, and motivation in a world often ruled by ridicule and comparison. For over a decade, Joey wasn't just a face in the crowd of influencers shouting about protein intake or personal records. He was a movement, a message, a symbol of encouragement in the darkest corners of the internet. But in a moment of unintended irony, that same voice of positivity became the target of a social media firestorm, one that unfolded with brutal speed, unchecked outrage, and devastating consequences. It began, as many modern controversies do, with a single post. On the morning of July 25, just hours after WWE had confirmed the tragic passing of Hulk Hogan at age 71 due to cardiac arrest, tributes poured in across the world. From wrestlers and actors to fans and childhood admirers, social platforms became flooded with heartfelt messages. But when Joey Swoll posted a clip from years prior, an old Halloween video of himself dressed as Hogan, flexing in the mirror at Gold's Gym in Venice, he didn't expect what would follow. The video, complete with exaggerated poses and classic brother shouts in full costume, had once been a light-hearted nod to one of his childhood heroes. But now, reposted so close to Hogan's death, it struck a nerve. Almost immediately, the backlash was unforgiving. Comments flooded in by the thousands, many accusing Joey of insensitivity, self-promotion, or worse, mockery. "This isn't a tribute, this is an ego flex," one user wrote. "Read the room," another snapped. Others went further, calling the video tone-deaf, opportunistic, and disrespectful to Hogan's grieving family. Hashtags like #disrespectfultribute and #CancelJoeySwoll began to trend across Twitter and TikTok, gaining traction with alarming speed. Within 12 hours, what was intended as an act of remembrance had become a public relations nightmare. But the video wasn't new. It was filmed nearly 5 years ago, during a Halloween event at Gold's Gym, a well-known mecca of bodybuilding culture in California. Back then, Joey had donned the Hulkamania bandana and sleeveless tee as part of a themed training day, complete with a few playful impersonations. Fans had cheered the throwback at the time. But context, it seemed, had become the first casualty in the court of public opinion. Swoll remained silent for most of the day. Behind the scenes, sources close to the influencer say he was blindsided by the reaction. "He was shocked," one close friend shared anonymously. "He meant it as a tribute. Hulk Hogan was his childhood hero. He watched every WrestleMania as a kid. The costume wasn't meant to mock, it was meant to honor. But the timing made it feel wrong, even if he didn't mean it that way." As the criticism mounted, so did the emotional toll. By nightfall, Joey took down the post. But the internet doesn't forget. Screenshots of the video circulated faster than he could respond. Influencer commentary channels began dissecting the fallout. YouTubers with millions of followers debated whether Joey Swoll had finally fallen victim to the same toxic fitness culture he claimed to fight against. Others jumped in to defend him, reminding viewers of his consistent efforts to call out gym bullying and promote a message of kindness and growth. But as polarizing as the reaction was, one thing was undeniable: Joey had become the center of a storm he never saw coming. The following morning, he posted a short message to his Instagram story. "I'm done," it read, white text on a black background. No hashtags. No explanations. Just 2 words that landed with finality. For his fans, it was a gut punch. For his critics, it was ambiguous. Was he quitting social media altogether? Was it an apology? Or a sign that the backlash had pushed him too far? The truth, as always, was more complex. Inside his home in California, Joey was grappling with a whirlwind of emotion. Those closest to him say he hadn't slept. He couldn't eat. He just kept asking, did I really do something wrong? Did I hurt people with that post? One confidant shared. He's never been about controversy. Joey's whole platform is built on encouragement. This broke him. The emotional cost became public shortly after, when Joey released a longer video, this time, seated in front of a blank wall, hoodie on, eyes tired. I want to explain, he began, voice quiet. That video I posted was old. It was filmed years ago during a Halloween promo event. I wasn't trying to mock Hulk Hogan. I grew up idolizing the guy. I even cried when I heard he died. But when I posted that clip, I realize now it came across wrong. It wasn't the right moment. He paused, visibly holding back tears. I'm not perfect. I've tried to build this page into something positive. A place where people feel strong, where they feel like they matter. If I hurt anyone, I am deeply sorry. That was never my intention. It was raw. Honest. Perhaps too late for some. But for others, it was a moment of vulnerability that reminded them who Joey Swoll had always been. A man who made mistakes, but also one who tried to learn from them. Still, the damage was done. In the hours that followed, sponsorships began to shift. At least 2 major fitness brands that previously partnered with Joey removed his promotional links from their websites. His business inquiries inbox, once filled with coaching requests and brand deals, went quiet. Influencer groups in the fitness niche began whispering, was this the beginning of the end? And yet, beneath the headlines and hashtags, there was something more sobering, something deeply human. This wasn't just about a video or a costume. This was about grief, legacy, and the fine line between tribute and self-promotion. Joey Swoll had stepped unknowingly into a cultural landmine, the question of how we honor the dead in a world obsessed with content. The truth is, Joey isn't the first public figure to misstep in mourning. We've seen it before. Celebrities posting selfies at funerals. Influencers using tragic hashtags to boost reach. But with Joey, there was no clickbait thumbnail. No monetized video. Just a 30-second clip of a man dressed like his hero, shared on the wrong day, at the wrong time. And maybe that's why it hurt so much. Because it wasn't malicious, it was misunderstood. But misunderstanding in the digital age can feel like a death sentence. As the days passed, the discourse deepened. Think pieces popped up online dissecting the controversy. Was it fair to cancel someone over a tribute? Should intent matter more than impact? One viral thread summed it up, Joey Swoll tried to honor a legend. But in a world grieving, sometimes silence is the louder kindness. It was a lesson not just for Joey, but for everyone watching. Behind every post is a person. Behind every costume, a memory. And behind every backlash, a question, are we reacting to the mistake, or projecting our own grief onto someone else's misstep? For Joey Swoll, the days that followed were filled with silence. His daily gym updates ceased. His motivational tweets vanished. The man once dubbed the loudest voice of encouragement in fitness had gone quiet. Not because he didn't have something to say, but because, perhaps for the first time, he didn't know how to say it. He wasn't just mourning Hulk Hogan. He was mourning the version of himself that had believed positivity was always enough to shield against the weight of public shame. But storms don't last forever. Even in the harshest spotlight, time has a way of softening the edges of controversy. Some fans began to speak up. He made a mistake, one wrote. But let's not forget everything he's done for gym culture. Another posted, he saved me from quitting the gym when I felt humiliated. That's the Joey I'll remember. Those voices, though softer than the outrage, began to grow. And maybe that's what redemption looks like. Not the erasure of a mistake, but the willingness to sit with it, learn from it, and slowly rebuild. As of now, Joey Swoll remains offline. No comeback posts. No brand partnerships. No long-winded explanations. Just silence, and perhaps, reflection. But those who know him say he hasn't given up. That behind the scenes, he's reevaluating everything. Not because he was cancelled, but because he finally understood that even the strongest voices need a moment of silence when the world is grieving. We don't yet know what Joey's next move will be. But we do know this: sometimes, the hardest thing isn't lifting weights, it's carrying the burden of misjudgment. And in that moment, Joey Swoll bore more than just the weight of criticism. He carried the heartbreak of a misunderstood tribute, the collapse of his public image, and the heavy silence that follows a storm. And still, somewhere deep beneath that silence, may be the heartbeat of a comeback. For every influencer, there's a moment that changes everything. For Joey Swoll, that moment came not with a scandal of betrayal or crime, but a 30-second video, posted from the heart, that the world wasn't ready to receive. And now, in the days following the backlash, the silence surrounding Joey wasn't just digital, it was emotional. He had vanished, not just from the feed, but from the place he loved the most, the gym. Gold's Gym, Venice, once Joey's sanctuary, where echoes of grunts and clanging steel filled the air with purpose, felt emptier without him. Regulars began to notice. The man who once smiled and fist-bumped strangers between sets, who encouraged the beginner struggling with their first barbell rep, was gone. One gymgoer recalled, "I saw him every morning at 6 a.m. for years. Then after the Hogan thing, nothing. Just like that." His absence wasn't just physical. It became symbolic. In a culture that glorifies resilience, especially within the fitness world, Joey's withdrawal sparked a deeper question: what does it mean to be strong when the internet decides you're wrong? The answer wasn't simple. Because behind the strength Joey projected, the tanned muscles, the chiseled jaw, the booming motivational voice, was a man quietly unraveling. Friends say the backlash shook him harder than any injury ever had. "He's used to criticism," said a source close to Joey. But this felt different. He didn't know how to defend himself without sounding defensive. And that's what broke him. And then came the stories. Headlines that dug deeper into Joey's past. Some resurfaced tweets from 2013, harmless at the time, now framed as problematic. Others questioned his authenticity. Was the gym positivity movement really about mental health, or was it a marketing strategy? The more the internet searched, the more it tried to turn a misunderstood post into a pattern of behavior. Joey never responded. Instead, he turned inward. A friend from high school described a phone call that lasted hours. He kept saying, "I didn't mean it. I loved Hogan. I just didn't think." And then he'd pause, go quiet, and ask, "Do you think people will ever forgive me?" The friend's response wasn't a promise. It was a hope. Because what was lost in the outrage was the context of the man. Joey Swoll wasn't just another clout-chasing influencer. He was someone who had spent years calling out toxicity in fitness spaces. He had gone viral dozens of times, not for drama, but for defending strangers being bullied online. His entire platform had been built on standing up for the overlooked, the underestimated, the anxious newcomer walking into a gym for the first time. And now, he was being bullied by the very culture he sought to cleanse. The irony was brutal. The man who fought for fairness was being torn down by unfair assumptions. Yet, he remained quiet. Not because he had nothing to say, but because he wasn't sure if anyone was ready to hear it. Meanwhile, the world moved on. Hulk Hogan's funeral was held days later, attended by legends of the wrestling world. Vince McMahon, Ric Flair, John Cena, all paid tribute. Hogan's casket, adorned in the red and yellow of his ring attire, was carried with reverence. News outlets covered the ceremony with gravity. Fans gathered outside the chapel in silence. There were tears. There was honor. But no mention of Joey Swoll. He watched the funeral livestream from his home, according to those close to him. He sat alone, the blinds drawn, a can of sugar-free Monster untouched on the table. When Hogan's theme song played softly in the background during the closing montage, "Real American," Joey wept. That was the moment it all hit him, a source said. That his hero was gone. And he never got to say goodbye properly. What was meant to be a tribute had turned into tragedy. It was then that Joey began writing again, not for social media, but for himself. Late at night, scribbled in notebooks and typed into drafts never posted, he began cataloging his thoughts. Regret. Grief. Rage. Reflection. He wrote about how fitness had saved him from depression. How Hulk Hogan had made him believe in confidence before he had muscles. How a costume could mean more than just fabric. How public shame felt like drowning with everyone watching. These weren't captions. They were confessions. And in those pages, a different Joey Swoll began to emerge, not the perfectly packaged coach, but a man confronting the fragility of public identity. A man who had spent years helping others heal, now trying to heal himself. But redemption doesn't come easy. When Joey finally returned to the gym, it was unannounced. No cameras. No gym bag sponsorship. Just him in a hoodie and sweatpants, trying to blend into the background. Some recognized him. Most gave him space. One man walked up and simply said, "Good to see you back, brother." Joey nodded. That was enough. He didn't film himself lifting. He didn't post a transformation. He just worked out. Slowly. Quietly. As if trying to reconnect with the only part of himself that still felt real. But while Joey healed in silence, the internet continued its debate. Podcasts began analyzing the incident. Was Joey Swoll a victim of cancel culture, or had he simply misjudged the moment? Should public figures be held accountable even when intentions are good? One roundtable discussion between former wrestlers and journalists questioned whether society had become too quick to punish and too slow to understand. Everyone wants to be the first to condemn, one commentator said. But nobody wants to be the first to forgive. That question, about forgiveness, hung over Joey like a shadow. Because more than sponsorships, more than followers, more than PR strategy, what Joey wanted most was understanding. Not sympathy. Not blind loyalty. Just the chance to explain. So he did what he had done since the beginning, he spoke directly to the people. In a new video, quietly uploaded without fanfare, Joey sat once again in front of a plain background. No pump. No lighting. Just honesty. His voice was steadier now. Less broken. But still humble. I want to thank those who stood by me, and even those who didn't. Because both taught me something, he began. This past week has been the hardest of my life. I've questioned everything. My purpose. My voice. Whether I still deserve to speak on this platform. He paused. But I also realized something else. That pain, when processed the right way, can become purpose. That sometimes, the only way to grow is to be broken first. He explained the video again. The costume. The timing. The grief. He apologized for not being more thoughtful, more aware. I should have waited. Or said more. Or maybe said nothing at all. I can't change what happened. But I can be better. I will be better. And then, looking directly into the camera, he said the words many didn't expect. I forgive the people who came for me. Because I know it wasn't just about me. It was about loss. About grief. About a hero we all looked up to being taken from us. Hulk Hogan meant something to millions, including me. If my post caused pain, I accept that responsibility. But I hope, in time, we can talk again. With less anger. And more heart. The video didn't go viral. It didn't trend. But it didn't need to. The comments spoke louder than algorithms. We hear you. Thanks for being real. We all grieve differently. You're still the CEO of gym positivity in my book. And in those words, something began to shift. Joey started posting again. Not daily. Not performatively. Just honestly. Small reflections. A workout here. A reminder there. Not to ignore the past, but to grow from it. He rebranded his page, not with flashy graphics or motivational slogans, but with one simple line: progress, not perfection. Behind the scenes, his team worked to rebuild his professional relationships. One brand quietly reinstated him. Another sent a handwritten letter. "We stand with those who learn." It wasn't a full return, but it was a start. And Joey? He remained cautious. But more grounded. In interviews, he was more reflective. Less polished. He admitted the toll of influencer culture. How easy it is to lose yourself when the camera is always rolling. How hard it is to grieve in public. And how sometimes, the best tribute isn't a video, but a vow to live better in someone's memory. Today, Joey Swoll is not the same man he was before that video. He's more vulnerable. More cautious. But also, perhaps, more human. The backlash didn't just challenge his public image, it redefined his mission. Gym positivity wasn't just about calling out jerks anymore. It was about calling himself in. About growing, even in the darkest moments. And Hulk Hogan? Joey still honors him. Not with costumes. Not with videos. But with quiet respect. A quote from Hogan's own biography hangs in his home gym now. "To be a real American, you've got to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard." Joey reads it often. Because sometimes, standing up for what's right means sitting down and listening first. The internet rarely waits for a redemption arc. It spins stories at a breakneck pace, rewarding outrage and forgetting nuance. But for Joey Swoll, this wasn't about virality anymore. It was about resilience. Redemption, for him, wouldn't be measured in follower counts or trending hashtags, but in the quiet moments when no one was watching. In the choices made behind closed doors. In the discipline of rebuilding trust, not just with others, but with himself. As the online world turned its attention to newer controversies and fresher headlines, Joey remained in the eye of a slower, more personal storm. His days became quieter, his workouts less performative. He wasn't recording his reps for likes anymore. He was lifting because it was the only place he still felt grounded. Each repetition became a kind of therapy, each drop of sweat a release from the mental weight he carried. His team encouraged him to step back fully, to take a sabbatical from content, to disappear for a while. But